Excellent. Great to have you. We also have Cheta Wante. Good morning, Cheta.
Good morning. You see, complaints work.
Okay.
On Monday, I complained that you people didn't have headsets. Now I'm blessed with a brand new
Yeah,
headset.
it means we
And
listen.
it's so
We
comfortable.
take your feedback very seriously.
You see?
Thank you. Cheta is at Checkster on Twitter. Ugo is at Ugodre on Twitter. You can find us at Smooth981FM on Twitter. All you need to do is to use the hashtag FreshlyPress981 so we can easily track your comments. You can also send your comment to WhatsApp. That's 0809 444 or go onto our YouTube channel. We're streaming live. Use the comment section to send in your thoughts on the headline stories for today. So we have some interesting stories, despite what Google says. But Constitution Review, the big one. Cheta, we'll start with you on this one. Power devolution, state police demands dominate public hearings. It's a big story because we talked about this earlier on this week that the Senate Committee on Constitution Review was going around the 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria. Now this is a heavy one as well. It's very lengthy. I'm glad that this day did such a just captured.
They didn't have a choice.
Just captured the thought. No other newspaper did, to be fair. I tried to look
because
for.
they're all lazy.
All right. Okay. Please take us through the feedback from review so far.
I'll graciously share it with my big brother as well so that he can put it because we already have disagreements about it.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you read through the story, you'll see that there's talk about, of course, devolution of powers, state police. So it's clear that, for example, the Delta State governor wants a brand new constitution.
Yeah.
The Ondo State governor disagreed with him and wants us to go back to the 1963 constitution. The Lagos State governor wants us to make Lagos give Lagos special status. Southern Kaduna people don't want to be in the same state with Northern Kaduna people again. Okun people in Kogi don't want to be in the North Central again. They want to be in the Southwest, and they want their own states.
So more states.
While we're at it. Some IPOB, the original IPOB, I think it's very important to keep stressing this. The original IPOB want to leave Nigeria, of course, and they presented a memorandum at the constitutional hearing in Enugu yesterday. So there's a lot happening. There's a whole lot, and I think for me, the one that was the headline for me was a Muslim group called the Muslim Network wants Sharia implemented in the Southwest states, and the Christian Association of Nigeria in response wants canon law indoctrinated into the constitution. So we have, but this is the essence of a constitutional talk.
Absolutely.
We've not had a proper constitutional debate since 1963, or since the debate that led to the 1963 constitution, which was essentially kickstarted by the Willings reports. The Willings report into the concerns of minority ethnic groups in the country, which was submitted in 1956. Even my big brother here wasn't around then. You can see, despite all his white hair. So it shows you just how far gone we are. The two other constitutional exercises that we've had that eventually became constitutions had constraints from the start. They were hamstrung. And you don't do a constitutional, a proper constitutional conference like that. There should be no matter that should be off the table.
Yes.
So having said that, I think my own position personally, and a group that I belong to, we did submit a memorandum yesterday.
Okay.
My own position is somewhere in between Okowa and Akeredolu's positions. We need a new constitution. I agree with Okowa on that. Let me learn now.
You're talking too far now. Go straight to it.
We need a new constitution, as I was saying.
Big brother, right? I'm so happy.
I can't say I was rudely interrupted because now Big Brother.
Good.
But we need a new constitution. Yeah. But it should be modeled along the lines of the 1963 constitution, which gives more, especially revenue sharing, which gives more to the states. That's to the subnational units. Because some of our existing states are not fit. That's a different matter. Okay, let's tell that story. And we could actually do this.
So let's Ugo come in. Yes,
he said the same constitution that caused war.
Yes.
The problem was it was improperly implemented. So one of the things in
I think it will be properly implemented this time. with this.
You see,
brand
cynicism.
of
You
politicians.
always accuse me of
No,
being a
go on
cynic.
now.
I can't, I'm even shocked you're accusing someone else of cynicism. I'm not looking at you.
In 63, one of the things that they talked about was this concerns. That's why the Willings report was very important, the concerns of minority groups. So they were supposed to create new states from the bat out of the only one that was created was in the Western region when the Midwest was. And yes, to feed into Ugo's point about the dishonesty of politicians, the NPC in the north and the NCNC in the east had an alliance at the federal level. So to weaken the opposition AG, they they organized referendum in the west for the western minorities who became the Midwest. Those ones were not in opposition. You understand? So they did that in order to weaken the opposition parties. Whereas, for example, the Middle Belt, who wanted out of the North, they sent in the army to tell them, no, you will remain in the North.
All right.
The Eastern minorities who wanted their own core states were ignored until Cross River states, which was called Southeastern states, and River states were cynically created in 1967 to get at the Igbos. So the problem is we don't have a shortage of actual reports that can be done for that actually tell us the problems and all of that. We have, as Ugo has rightly pointed out, cynical people who will only cherry pick what they want, and that's where the big gap is.
All right. So thank you for making your point. I'm glad that Ugo has a somewhat different review in
He
terms
hates
of
the idea of state police.
Yes. Oh, you do.
Not necessarily.
All right. So please tell us.
So, personally, I think that if I was going to go for any, I'll go for amendment of the Constitution.
Right.
There are several aspects of the Constitution that I think we'll probably need to, address or amend.
Okay.
But you see, all this talk about devolution of powers, state police, through federalism. Personally, I just think these are politicians and groups with selfish interest. These are just a lot of people who all they are looking for is how to get access to Nigeria's so-called revenue or whatever it is.
So it boils down to money.
It all boils down to money at the end of the day. Because, okay, you do state police. Okay, when you do state police, you go to countries where they do state police. By the way, it's the people that determine who the police chief would be. In some states, are the governors going to allow that? And then when you get to the local government level as well, they would also decide who will be their own county or whatever, head. Where does it end? And where would they get them from? Do you understand? So
which is where part of the problem is. That I like where the money comes from, because at the end of the day, the big problem, which has been a big problem since the 1970s, is that Nigeria is not a productive country. Actually, since April 1973, which is the first time that oil revenues surpassed tax revenues, since then we've not been productive. You can actually draw a chart, as in those charts exist, of productivity versus consumption, and it was from that period that consumption outstripped productivity, and we've never looked back. So yes, that's part of the problem. Now, one place I take issue with what he says, everybody coming with their selfish interest. Yes, interests are selfish. I think we need to get rid of this thing that we've been fed with for the rest of for all our lives, that everybody comes in thinking of the greater good. No.
So are you saying, but we have countries like America where they come in with it's the American dream? Are you saying
how did the American Constitution start?
Hogwash, by the way.
How did the American Constitution start?
See, here's one thing. Here's what people think. You come and say, "Oh, it's selfish interest." That's fine. I mean, at the end of the day, in the world, we all have selfish interest.
Yeah.
Whether you like it.
Every human being is.
But don't come and tell me, the guys, that when you come up with constitution review or things like this, Nigeria is going to be a better place. It's not going to be a better place.
So how?
Which is why
because
we
what, today in America, despite the kind of democracy they have, they still have race issues.
Yes,
exactly. It starts from their constitution.
Exactly, and that's how it is. Their constitution, by the way, tells you everybody is equal. That same constitution.
Okay,
it's the same constitution that segregates.
Okay, so let me come in. Don't speak Igbo.
Igbo is one of the languages of Nigeria. Why can't I speak it?
English is our mode of communication.
Please.
Anyways, thank you very much. Well, let me just come in there and just say that. So essentially, all constitutions will be flawed as long as human beings are interpreting
which
it.
Is why even the Americans always say towards a more perfect union.
Okay.
Now, the American Constitution, how did they come about? They carried, so the first thing, which is one of the first places where we miss it, is they had properly selected delegates. Those delegates were carried to Philadelphia and they were locked in a room for 118 days. Oh, yeah, talk. And one of the things they came out with, for example, was this whole electoral college thing, the 3/5 of a human being. That was to address the selfish interests of the slaveholding South. So you see how selfish interests come into play.
So
And
must
then you
always
come-
leave
so-
room for
so,
selfish
yeah,
interest.
no, selfish interests are a
Yeah,
natural
It's
part of
human,
it.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
natural.
Where we have the issue here is number one, we always go to these things with one I think, okay, this thing is a no good topic. See, for example, saying to break up Nigeria should not be a no good topic.
Thank you.
Let us put that on the table. Let us discuss it
I don't think
properly.
any of these governors or any of these respondents, apart from
See,
I
see,
said the original IPOB
yes.
right there.
Yeah.
Now there's also another group which wasn't admitted in
All right,
anything.
we need to move on because of our time.
The point I'm making is if Nigeria's delegates, all the delegates representing the various groups, come and have that discussion, including potentially breaking up the country, and then they have a talk and reason prevails and everybody agrees
Is that
to
reason
stay
prevail?
together,
That is the challenge.
which is why lock them up in a room for 300 days if necessary and swallow the key and then at the end when somebody knocks on the door and says okay we have all agreed and everybody in the room says yes we have agreed, you will say once there's an agreement and everybody buys into the idea, because as imperfect as America is, the key thing is that everybody buys, or the vast majority of the people buy into the idea.
You know what's
Right.
missing? Sorry, just to
Yeah,
end
of
this,
course.
what is missing in everything, right, is Nigeria, the collective interest of everyone. Every single person here, everything I've read here, they are all going there for their own selfish interests. There's a lot of selfish interest, but at the end of the day, there's got to be a collective reasoning. There must be a reason why we all exist.
Yeah.
It's not about Nigeria at the end of it. It's not about, oh, how can we come up with a constitution that makes this country better?
Yeah.
Economically, politically, socially. How?
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about that. So it's
everyone
not,
is coming to
it's
the
about,
table
oh,
with-
this is what I want for my area. Oh, my
And it
memorial
speaks
states.
to
the
the-
memorandum
it speaks
that,
to the
that-
mindset
that
of
my group
Nigerians,
submitted, yes, this book speaks to
Please, what's your group?
What's,
Eh?
what's
Full
your group?
disclosure.
What's your group? Tell us.
it's a collection of CSOs.
All right, okay, fair enough. Let's go to the comment section. That Lawal says, spot on Ugo and Cheta. Hope you did. Like I said the other day, we're not sincere people. Our representatives are not sincere people. Even with the selfish interest, we're still not sincere to the people we represent. I hope we know that selfishness is not just a Nigerian thing. It cuts across the world. But like you mentioned,
Selfish
and-
is an English word.
Thank you. And Onoche says, I'm enjoying this conversation with Cheta and Ugo Dre. Reviewing the constitution is the best way forward. The root cause, says IK, of Nigeria's problem is tribalism, religion, and politicians taking advantage of these volatile tools. This team is very good. I love you, my people. I think it's important to say it's not only politicians, at least it's not politicians alone that are submitting memorandums and responding. Everybody who is speaking from their own selfish interests. They're bringing their own, okay, let me speak about my own. So it talks about unity as well. All right, let's go on. I just want you to speak on two things still from the Constitution Review. Like Cheta said, we can spend an entire 30 minutes speaking on this. But Ugo, let me come to you first. Something happened in the Lagos, Southwest Review Center, one of which is in Lagos State in Ikeja. So this is headed by Senator Remi Tinubu. And apparently there was a little fracas. So let's just move away a little from the main course and digress a little and come back. It's a digression, but still quite important because First Lady was trending yesterday. And I guess the reason why it was trending was that they're like, is this our future First Lady? Apparently she referred to one of the women who had come in who couldn't get access into the room, a thug. And people had very strong reservations about her use of that term. Please take us to the story.
You know, without trying to defend her, or trying to sound like, you know, I'm some kind of lone ranger here. Right?
See, I'm already sounding like that.
Look, one thing that you've got to be, you know, aware of, or especially with social media arguments or Nigeria as a whole, there's just a lot of hypocrisy out there. Should a senator sound that way? Probably not. It's not a good example. But at the end of the day, look, I'm not sure this is the first time.
So should it
probably
continue
sounded that
because
way.
it's not the first time?
Yeah, I think that it's human. It could probably be in a fit of rage. I don't know, right? So why this is an argument in the first place, or why this is even a discussion, is what I read on.
Ugo, let me
I
ask
think
you
there's
a
just so many things to
question.
talk about.
Ugo, she said she's quoted in this article to saying that if you're saying it was it was the result of a fit of rage.
Yeah.
When you calm down, you will see the error of your ways and you would apologize. She refused to apologize and says no, she's
Why? Because
standing
they were
by.
telling her to apologize there. Everybody was, I wasn't there. They were probably all shouting on each other, and she said she wasn't going to apologize. And by the way, the reason why this is trending is
Yeah.
because the gist is that her husband wants to test already, even though he's never said he wants to run. So
I'm not-
yeah,
I'm not denying
at least
it either.
he hasn't denied it either, right? Politicians don't deny things like that. They will keep going because you never know how it's going to pan out, right?
In Nigeria,
Yeah,
a
so-
proper presidential run is you don't say
Yes,
anything.
that people
Yeah.
are calling him
So
to-
I don't know, but you know,
So people have told him that he's the best politician.
so I guess that's why they're reacting. And,
Yeah.
and yes,
So-
we all want our leaders to be well behaved,
Yes.
but let's just understand that they're not perfect. I mean, they're not, and that's truth. So all you can do is call them to order sometimes, and sometimes they come back and they apologize. Sometimes they don't. We've seen a U.S. president
I
who
was going
tells
to
you
say
to
it's
go
a
to hell,
Trump.
and nothing happens, right? So let's not come and start to sound like we're in some kind of heaven, or we're some kind of country where.
So if it were
everybody's
you,
civil.
Ugo, that they call the thug guys, when you're your
I'll
civil
call her and
rights.
talk to you. I don't get mouth.
All right, fair enough. Okay, thank you very much. Atielo on Twitter says, "Break the country up. They killed 100 people in my state the other day. They keep doing it. For those of us from Benue, we know do again." That is Atielo saying. All right, I think I'll just move on to the next story here. Cheta, we talked a lot on constitutional reviews. So, I mean, you already touched on the House of Fulani from Kaduna State asking for a split. But let's go on to conflicting accounts on Ebonyi suicide bomb requiring forensic investigation. So the federal government, no, actually that's the other one. Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria has called for an independent forensic probe into the reported grenade explosion in Afikpo over alleged contradictory explanations by Ebonyi State government and the police. So a man was said, I'm trying to look for his name here, to blow himself up in Ebonyi State. He was said to be a suicide. They said it was
his name was Audu Idi Amin.
Audu Idi Amin. All right. Yes, Idi Amin, I remember, because they said, oh, what the irony of that. I saw the picture. Please take us through this and what the government is saying and now the Human Rights Writers Association.
There are so many stories that came out, and this is, I think, at the end of the day, the bottom line is trust. So you have a situation where there on Monday, sorry, not Monday. What's today? Today is Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah. So on Tuesday, various groups, various media outlets published that we finally had a suicide bomber in the east, and then suddenly pro-Biafra handles started saying no, it's a northerner, and you see the northerners want to come and cause trouble in the east. Then after that, the the spokesperson for the police in Ebonyi said that it's one of their people, a policeman, and that his tear gas canister exploded. And that's where basically all hell broke loose. The Ebonyi State government said something else. I don't even remember what it said. It was that was in itself was also what Huriwa is calling for, which is the right thing, is an investigation. Me, as a non-expert but professional amebo, I called some of my friends who are, two of them are policemen, one of them is a soldier, and then I did some tweets about it yesterday, and then somebody who called himself an explosive expert told me that I know nothing. I don't pretend that I know anything about explosives. I will only report what my friends who are supposed to be experts said. And they said that a grenade and a tear gas canister are made up of two different compositions. So for a grenade, it's key. It's secured like a fire extinguisher, where essentially it's a curved thing that you have to flatten before you pull. Essentially, what they're saying is that means that what the guy was carrying could not be a grenade. But they're also saying that it cannot be a tear gas canister because tear gas canisters cannot explode. I mean, we also, for those of you who are not addressed to train up your breakfast, we also pictures of the body. So essentially, what they're saying is there's something different. But one other person said, if it were a suicide bombing thing, that the moment, because the guy was heading into his school and was looking agitated, and then the security of the school were saying, "What are you coming to do here?" And that was when then he ran off, and shortly after there was that explosion, and he died. And so this other person told me, if it's a suicide bomber, a suicide bomber's objective is to go and take a few people with him.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't make sense that he would have run away
Yeah.
at that point. You understand?
Yeah.
Because again, suicide vests are usually almost always remote control, remote detonated. You typically suicide bombers move in pairs. I mean, think of say Abdul Talab. The reason he failed was because he was on a plane. He was to do it all alone.
Yeah.
His net failed.
Yeah.
That's one thing they know. Most suicide bombers, there's somebody somewhere, typically with a cell phone, to remote detonate. So that's the issue. Again, I know this one. I know for a fact. I didn't need to ask anybody. Grenades are not part of the standard issue of Nigeria
police
of Nigerian. So where did he get the grenades from? I mean, there's no madman. Even the people who started the anti-riot police squad, which is the official name for mobile police, they are not mad. You are not going to give people grenades for crowd control, which is essentially what it is. So there are so many things that don't add up in this matter. And what the people are saying is, okay, do a proper investigation. At least with a forensic investigation, you can take some of the residue and tell us what killed the guy.
Yeah.
But in the final analysis, the lesson here is that the absence of trust, which is what comes when the security services and the government have serially lied to the people, is what is manifesting here. Nobody believes them.
All right. Thank you very much, Teta. Let's go to some comments. Abayami Akariki says, amendment is the way. I agree with Ugo. From Imade, says, original IPOB, really? Which is the fake IPOB? And then...
I think it's important for people to note that.
Okay.
So I keep forgetting his name. There was somebody who actually started IPOB back in the as a splinter off of Wazirike's Maso. And then what now happened was that Nnamdi Kanu went to the UK with Uche Mefo and registered IPOB as a UK tribe. So he was registered as the director. Uche Mefo was registered as deputy director, which is why now that Uche Mefo and Nnamdi Kanu have fallen out. Uche Mefo is still deputy director because the UK is not an anyhow country like Nigeria where Nnamdi Kanu can just wake up and kick him out. So they have that uncomfortable situation where both of them have fallen out, but both of them are still on the charter.
Yeah, find that. So Fairly from VI says, Senator Remi Tinubu's being the Lagos event was deplorable, simple. Your analyst is giving excuses for bad behavior. This is why our politicians don't rate us. Go. I see one of the reasons why they don't rate us. All right, let's go on to our next story. NNPC seeks to acquire 20% stake in Dangote Refinery. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation has expressed interest in purchasing a 20% minority equity stake in Dangote Refinery, reputed, of course, to be Africa's biggest oil refining facility. This was actually laid out as part of their investment plans yesterday. It was laid out by the Chief Operating Officer of NNPC Refining and Petrochemicals, Mr. Mustafa Yakubu.
It's just like business today.
I like it.
About money.
Yeah, look at the way your face lit up.
Anyway, interesting story. For those of us who at least have been following, Dangote Refinery for a while, this comes as no surprise. In fact, some of us, some people, do, tell me that the government actually has, silent stake in what's happening there, either through some kind of support or funding, but the government is heavily invested in Dangote Refinery. So I'm not surprised that NNPC is going this route. Perhaps maybe to formalize some of the stakes they have already in there or the interest they have in that refinery. It's a huge refinery. I don't know if you've been there before. It's actually bigger than the entire Surrey. Wow. Yeah, I was there once and it's huge. It's one of the biggest. It's a city on its own. So if you have just one guy or one company owning it, it's uncanny. It's not something that you see all the time. So it's a good move, and I think strategically for Nigeria, it's important that perhaps maybe there's some kind of stake and knowing that one day and Nigerians are also going to own direct stakes in NNPC. So indirect Nigeria, probably would own. Nigerians would have a stake in Dangote Refinery. Let's also remember that NNPC would be supplying, or at least NNPC and some other areas would be supplying about 650,000 or so barrels of oil. Is it 650? Yeah, 650,000 barrels. To that refinery. So it's a strategic investment that I think we should support. But no surprises to me. I think that this is just part of trying to formalize what already,
what had been
yeah,
going
what
on,
has
yeah.
been going on.
All right, thank you. Do you think that, as some people have said, they've come up a number of times, tax evasion, etc. With the government stake in Dangote refinery, what does this then mean for him, for that business and their relationship with the government and getting away with paying taxes and
How
all
would they
that?
pay taxes? I mean, I think that this thing is just.
They're not saying he's not paying; it's that he's not paying
Yes,
enough.
I don't know about enough. I don't know. I mean, one thing I like to ask people, those that are, claiming that he's not paying up, when do they actually pay their own taxes? So,
Short.
um,
Google. I'm not sure people are going to like it.
no, you don't have to like me. I'm just saying.
No, that's
Yeah.
fair
So
enough.
yes,
Yeah.
has he had, tax concessions a whole lot?
Yeah.
I
He
think
gets
it's very favorable to me. Yes,
preferential
preferential
treatment.
treatment. Yes,
Yes.
that's clear. Everybody knows that. So, but to this particular story, if that he owns a refinery, doesn't mean he's not going to pay tax. Except, of course, they get.
I mean, even with concessions, would the concessions now be more,
It's very likely that he might, I won't be surprised if they already applied for a pioneer tax certificate, because what it means is that it's basically like a greenfield project in a way. Especially the way the project, the way it's being developed.
Yeah.
So he may have also even gotten the pioneer tax certificate, so which means he's probably going to go the next 5 years, the first 3 years of operation without paying taxes,
Wonderful.
and then he can extend again for another 2 years without paying
Wonderful.
taxes. Yes, you can get that too. Though.
Thank you. I think all people need to get his education so that they know their rights rather than
it's available for
it's available
if
to
you're
everyone.
engaging
Rights
in
in
any
Nigeria.
business, you apply for it.
Yeah, Cheta, that too.
I've applied and I gotten before.
Exactly.
For an
Thank
organization I used to
you.
work for. Yeah.
That's why he's smiling, Cheta.
I've been-
Please, let's move on.
Let's talk after.
You
Some
look
of
at
us
you.
are very
Look at you. Stop.
professional.
This is that's the problem with Nigeria. They talk about crab mentality. You're pulling them down. Find your own
I'm
way.
not.
Not
Did I
you,
say to
not
pull him down? I
you.
said let us talk after the show.
Okay,
You're telling
let's
me.
move on to other stories. Okay, so on security matters, bandits kill 21 vigilantes. Premium Times reports this, and why this got my attention was that in Sokoto is not one of those states in the north that you hear a lot about in terms of insecurity. We know the usual suspects, and so the fact that now, well, at least compared to the others,
It's
I'm
for
not
those
saying
of
it's
us
not
that
happening.
track it.
No, I'm not
you
saying
hear
it's
a
not
lot about
happening.
Sokoto.
I'm saying that in terms of numbers from the other states that come up a bit more, we have Kaduna, we have Borno State. But Sokoto seems to not be in the news a lot, and it's also in this report. But just take us
Well,
through the story.
it's an arc basically from Kaduna, Katsina, Zamfara,
Yeah.
Sokoto. They all share the same. Let me just tell a divert a bit.
Thank you.
I mean, we went for a project in Sokoto once, and we were meant to be going to Goronyo every day. It's like a 3-hour drive, and the police escorts were telling us, guys, don't worry, you don't have to wake up early. Just we leave by 9. So we leave by 9, we get to Goronyo by 12, and then by 3 they're telling us, oh yeah, guy, where will they come? Where will they move? Because they don't anything that you see on the road outside of that 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Take it like that. This was in Sokoto State. So what we need to understand is that
Thank you very
I'm
much.
going to find you. Thank you so much. Brilliant conversation this morning. We're going to take some of the comments during Lagos Talks 901 because we couldn't squeeze them in because of the kind of conversation we had this morning. I think most of them said that you represented. So some people are for Ugo, some people are for Jetta, so it's balanced. But in a few minutes, we'll be taking some entertainment stories in the Grapevine 981. You can tag Ugo at Ugo Dre on Twitter, tag Cheta Checks on Twitter if you want to engage them further. And please tag us at Smooth981 FM. Use the hashtag Freshly Pressed 981. I'm Ayo Mayo Essing.